The first thing prehistoric people did after waking was not breakfast. It was not stretching, yawning, or complaining about Monday. It was listening, because the morning could be dangerous. Before anyone moved, ears woke up before the legs. Was that wind, birds, wolves, or another human group nearby? One wrong guess could ruin the entire day. For prehistoric people, morning was not peaceful by default. Morning was a survival test with very bad lighting. Today, we wake up and check a phone. They woke up and checked the world. That simple difference explains almost everything about early human life. So, what really happened when a prehistoric person opened their eyes? Imagine a small group sleeping near a fire. They are not living in a cartoon cave forever. Some groups used caves, but many slept in temporary camps. They built shelters from branches, hides, leaves, grass, and available materials. Their homes depended on weather, animals, seasons, and where food existed. This story could happen tens of thousands of years ago. It could happen during the late Ice Age. It could happen in Europe, Africa, Asia, or elsewhere. There was no single prehistoric lifestyle for everyone. But many hunter-gatherers shared one basic problem. Every morning, the world asked them the same question. Are you ready to stay alive again? The first person awake did not shout happily. Shouting early was a terrible survival strategy. Instead, they probably stayed still for a moment. Their eyes adjusted to weak morning light. Their ears searched for sounds around the camp. Their nose noticed smoke, damp earth, bodies, and nearby animals. Their skin felt cold air or humid heat. Before tools, food, or walking came awareness. That sounds simple, but it was advanced behavior. Humans survived because they noticed patterns very well. A quiet forest might be normal. A suddenly silent forest might be a warning. Birds calling in one direction might mean movement nearby. Footprints near camp might mean animals visited overnight. Smoke blowing strangely might mean wind had changed, and wind could decide where hunters should travel. So yes, the first morning task was basically prehistoric surveillance, except the security camera was a sleepy person named Not Dead Yet. After listening, someone checked the fire. Fire was not just a cozy decoration. It gave heat, light, protection, and a way to cook food. Keeping embers alive could save hours of difficult work. Starting fire was possible, but not always easy. A living ember was like a prehistoric battery. If the fire had survived, everyone's morning improved immediately. If the fire had died, congratulations, the day became annoying. Someone might gently feed dry grass into glowing coals. Then small sticks would help the flame return. Too much wood too quickly could smother everything. Too little attention could let the ember disappear. This was not dramatic, but it mattered deeply. A camp without fire was colder, darker, and less safe. The next thing people checked was each other. Was everyone still there? Was anyone sick, hurt, missing, or freezing? In a small group, every person was important. A child crying changed the morning plan. An elder coughing changed the travel plan. A hunter with a sore ankle changed the food plan. Prehistoric life was teamwork, not one superhero with a spear. Even the strongest hunter needed toolmakers, gatherers, watchers, and caregivers. This is the first surprising twist. The morning did not begin with hunting. It began with social care. Humans survived because groups protected each other. Before chasing animals, they checked children, elders, and sleeping companions. That is less Hollywood, but much more human. Then came the weather check. There was no weather app, obviously. There was the sky, wind, clouds, smell, and old experience. Dark clouds meant shelter work might come first. Fresh snow meant tracks would be easier to follow. Heavy rain could erase signs and make travel harder. Strong wind could carry human scent toward animals. That was bad news for hunters trying to stay hidden. Cold mornings meant bodies needed warmth before long movement. Hot mornings meant finding water became more urgent. Every sunrise was also a planning meeting. But the meeting had no table, chair, or awkward slideshow. People quietly read the landscape like a giant instruction manual. Then someone checked nearby ground. Were there fresh tracks? Had animals passed close during the night? Were there broken branches or disturbed leaves? Had predators circled near the camp? Had another human group left signs nearby? This information could decide breakfast, travel, and safety. Prehistoric people were excellent trackers because they had to be. To them, mud was not just mud. Mud was yesterday's newspaper. A hoof print might mean possible food. A paw print might mean everyone should move carefully. Small footprints might mean children should stay near adults. Even droppings could reveal animal diet, direction, and freshness. Yes, prehistoric mornings included poop analysis. History is beautiful, but sometimes it smells terrible. After safety checks, the group faced the breakfast question. Breakfast was not guaranteed. There was no fridge, bakery, or emergency noodle packet. Food depended on yesterday's luck and today's environment. Some mornings, leftovers waited near the fire. Cooked meat, roasted roots, nuts, berries, or stored food might remain. Other mornings, there was almost nothing. Then people had to find food before hunger weakened everyone. Gathering often began early because plants did not run away. That made plant knowledge extremely valuable. People knew which berries were safe. They knew which roots were useful. They knew when nuts ripened and where water plants grew. They understood seasons far better than most modern people. Forget the stereotype of prehistoric people being clueless. Many could read landscapes better than we read menus. Children probably learned by watching adults every morning. They learned what to touch and what to avoid. They learned which insects were edible in some places. They learned where birds nested and where bees might lead. They also learned that curiosity could be painful. A prehistoric child poking the wrong plant learned quickly. Meanwhile, tool checking began. Spears needed straight shafts and sharp points. Stone blades could chip, dull, or break. Scrapers, baskets, digging sticks, and cords all mattered. A broken tool could waste a hunting chance. A dull blade could make food preparation much harder. So mornings often included repair and preparation. This is another surprising twist. Prehistoric technology was not primitive in the lazy sense. It was simple-looking, but carefully made. A stone tool could require planning, skill, and patience. One bad strike could ruin valuable material. Good tools were not disposable toys. They were survival equipment made by experienced hands. Some people may have specialized more in certain skills. One person made better points. Another knew plant fibers. Another remembered water sources. Another understood animal movement. This division of knowledge made the group smarter together. After checking tools, the group discussed the day's movement. Should they stay near camp? Should they follow animal tracks? Should they collect plants, repair shelter, or find water? Should they move because resources were running low? Hunter-gatherers often moved with seasons and opportunities. They were not wandering randomly like lost tourists. They followed patterns, memories, animal migrations, and plant cycles. The land was their map, calendar, and grocery store. Morning decisions were based on yesterday's observations. A herd seen at dusk might be followed at dawn. Fruit found yesterday might be gathered before birds finished it. A riverbank with fresh tracks might attract hunters. A storm-damaged shelter might keep everyone busy. So the first hour after waking shaped the entire day. One mistake could waste energy. Energy was precious when calories were difficult to get. Modern people worry about low battery. Prehistoric people worried about low body fuel. That is much harder to recharge. Then came body maintenance, prehistoric style. People probably stretched, scratched, rubbed cold hands, and adjusted clothing. Animal hides, woven fibers, and plant materials needed constant care. Shoes or foot coverings, when used, could wear down. Carrying bags needed checking. Water containers, where available, had to be inspected. Hair, skin, and teeth were not ignored either. Some groups used chewing sticks, fibers, or other cleaning methods. They were not modern dentists, but they were not careless. However, nobody said, "Great, time for my skincare routine," unless your skincare routine included smoke, dust, and mosquito bites. As the camp became active, roles formed naturally. Some adults prepared to leave. Others stayed near children or elders. Some watched the surroundings while others handled food. Someone might collect more firewood before the day became busy. Someone might fetch water if the source was nearby. Someone might check stored materials from the previous day. Nobody had a written schedule. But routines existed because survival rewards routine. The funniest part is how familiar some moments feel. Someone woke up grumpy. Someone moved too slowly. Someone probably wanted food immediately. A child probably asked a question at the worst moment. An adult probably gave the prehistoric version of, "Not now." The world was ancient, but family energy was eternal. The hunting group, if one formed, left carefully. They did not always sprint dramatically with spears raised. That would scare animals and waste energy. Instead, they moved quietly and watched the ground. They used wind direction to avoid being smelled. They noticed broken grass, bird alarms, and distant movement. Hunting required patience, cooperation, and lots of failed attempts. Big animal hunting was risky and not always daily. Smaller animals, fish, shellfish, eggs, and plants mattered greatly. Prehistoric diets were often varied, depending on region. The popular image of endless mammoth steaks is misleading. Most days were probably less epic battle and more fine dinner. Still, the first morning choices could lead to big events. Following fresh tracks might bring food for many people. Ignoring danger signs might bring trouble instead. A camp decision could decide whether everyone slept hungry. That pressure made ordinary mornings historically important. Back at camp, gatherers searched with expert eyes. They knew food could hide in boring places. Underground routes were not obvious to beginners. Nuts required timing and sometimes processing. Some plants were edible only after careful preparation. Other plants looked friendly and absolutely were not. This knowledge was passed through teaching and experience. A person who knew plants could save the group. That is why prehistoric intelligence was practical and detailed. They did not need algebra to survive Tuesday. They needed to know which mushroom was a terrible idea. This is the third surprising twist. Prehistoric mornings were full of education. Children learned by copying, listening, failing, and trying again. They learned tool use through play. They learned tracking from footprints. They learned danger from warnings and stories. They learned kindness because babies required years of care. Human childhood is long, which made teaching essential. A group with better teaching had a better future. So after waking, people were not just surviving today, they were training tomorrow's survivors. By mid-morning, the first decisions had already spread consequences. A good fire meant warm food. A good track reading meant hunting direction. A good weather guess meant safer travel. A good group check meant nobody was left behind. These small actions form the invisible engine of survival. History often remembers kings, wars, and giant monuments, but prehistory depended on quiet mornings like this. No crown, no castle, no dramatic speech. Just people waking up under a huge, uncertain sky. Now, let's clear up some strange myths. First, prehistoric people did not all live in caves. Caves preserve evidence well, so they look more common archaeologically. Many people lived in open-air camps that disappeared over time. Second, prehistoric people were not constantly fighting dinosaurs. Humans and non-bird dinosaurs missed each other by millions of years. Sorry, but the caveman riding a dinosaur was unemployed by reality. Third, prehistoric people were not stupid. Their tools, art, burials, and migrations show flexible thinking. They solved problems with materials found around them. They remembered routes across huge landscapes. They shared knowledge through language, gesture, and demonstration. Fourth, men did not simply hunt while women only waited. Evidence suggests prehistoric labor was more flexible than old stereotypes claimed. Gathering, hunting, childcare, tool-making, and planning could overlap. Real survival rarely fits a simple cartoon chart. Fifth, mornings were not always desperate misery. There was fear, hunger, cold, and danger, but there was also laughter, routine, affection, and curiosity. People told stories, made art, decorated objects, and cared for others. A sunrise could bring danger, but also possibility. Maybe a child learned a new skill. Maybe someone found honey and became a camp hero. Maybe the fire survived, and everyone felt briefly victorious. Small victories mattered when life demanded constant attention. So what was the first thing prehistoric people did after waking? They listened. Then they checked fire, people, weather, tracks, tools, and food. That sequence reveals a powerful lesson. Survival was not about one dramatic heroic moment. It was about hundreds of careful choices repeated every day. Prehistoric people lived by noticing what modern people often ignore. They noticed wind, silence, footprints, smoke, hunger, and each other. Their mornings were practical, social, and surprisingly intelligent. They turned danger into routine through memory and cooperation. And that may be the most human thing about them. We are not separate from those sleepy morning problem solvers. We are their descendants, just with alarms and better blankets. The next time you wake up, remember their first task. Before messages, chores, breakfast, or complaints, they asked one question: what is the world telling us today? And if morning survival shaped human history, what did night change?